Keith here. I wanted to do a little bit about music theory. One, because there's so many great players on the internet that look anywhere and you can find a great player. There's a lot of guys who talk about music theory, but they only do bits and pieces of it. They'll do like chord progressions and stuff like that. And I'm sure if I look, there's probably others. But there's a lot of conversation about it over the years that it's hard. This is so hard to do. The only hard part about music theory is the oral recognition of it. That's what takes practice. The theory behind it is, listen, if you can count to 10, you can do music theory. Now, college professors who teach it and everybody who teaches it, not everybody, I shouldn't say that, but a lot of folks who try to explain it want you to believe like it's really difficult. This is some of the simplest stuff you'll ever know. And I kind of taught it in a way that once you understand the foundation of it, you can pretty much figure anything else out. You can talk turkeys, so to speak, with anybody about it. It's kind of like putting the salt and pepper on a steak. It doesn't really make you a better player. What makes you a better player, I always thought, was practice. This is kind of study. Studying doesn't really make you good. It gives you a little bit of knowledge to expand things, but practice is what makes you obviously a better musician, not studying. So, like I said, if you have a good foundation and you want to be a player, there's millions of people who can really give you a tremendous insight into playing. And this will just be a little bit of seasoning on it. But I guarantee you this, if you understand this, and this will not take long, I'm going to show you everything you need to know. And no matter who you talk to, no matter what they're talking about, you're going to be able to figure out what they're talking about or utilize the information to make yourself a better player. And I've taught hundreds of students this. And I'm going to teach you how to spell chords where you don't need a chord chart. I'm going to teach you about keys, how to memorize chord progression or tunes a lot quicker using numbers, how all the fancy terms. You hear people talk about secondary dominants and the related to of 5/7 of 4, tritones, tritone substitutions, all these fancy terms. I'll show you what all that is. You'll have it under your belt and you'll understand it. And like I said, I think it'll make you a little bit better player, the ability to memorize more things. When you hear things, you'll be able to assign some sort of association with numbers and how it relates to a key, and you'll be able to remember them quicker, and you'll be able to memorize a lot of songs, and you'll hear certain patterns in songs that repeat themselves, and you'll probably have a couple aha moments. I do my little guitar playing, and if you like that, great. I'll analyze all those tunes and tell you about that. But take these couple lessons, and it isn't going to take long. You'll be able to teach yourself then. If you learn this foundation, I promise you'll be able to teach yourself. There's no charge for it. Hit like and subscribe, I guess, is what everyone says. But I think you'll find this very valuable. So I have my form up, and the first thing is you got to kind of start at the beginning to make sure everybody knows it. But what do we use in music? We use notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, H, I, J. No, I'm only kidding. Obviously, when you get to G, you start over again and go back to A, and it just keeps compounding on top of itself as it gets higher and higher. So you have A at one level, A at another level, A at a higher level, so on and so forth. So I have the letters, the musical alphabet. Well, that's not quite all of them, is it? There are some notes in between, but the first thing I want to tell you is what is the smallest distance that we use or pitch-wise in music? And that's a half step. And a half step, you see it on the piano all the time, or on the guitar, it's one fret, or it's between two adjacent white keys, as you see right here. Let me get my pen up here. You got to work with me here. I'm not real good at moving this thing around. Of course, my pen has disappeared now, and where did it go? It's like, where's my shapes and lines? Oh, there we go. Okay, there's a pen, and I leave it on red. Yeah, like obviously right here, this is E, and this is the F. There's only a half step, and that's the shortest distance we use between any two notes in music. It also occurs naturally between B and C, and right here is B on the piano and C. If you're a guitar player, you can find those notes. The second string open is B, and then if you finger the first fret, that's C. Also, the first string is E, and then the first fret is F. And that's called a half step. Half step is the smallest interval that we actually use in music. So it's important to understand what a half step is. Now, the other half step is between C, like any other white key, and then the black key. Okay? Now, we'll just start with C. So between C, well, how do we raise it a half step? Like the same interval between E and F and C sharp it is. So we call the one above it C sharp. If you press on C and you raise it a half step, you go up to C sharp. Now you can name it two ways. The lower one sharp or the higher one flat. So C sharp and D flat are exactly the same note. They sound exactly the same. It's just named two ways. The fancy term that you may hear someone call it, the enharmonic equivalent. If I wasn't clear and you don't know this yet, a sharp raises a note a half step and a flat lowers a note one half step. Now, can you have an F flat? Yeah, F flat is E. C flat is B. You could call it C flat if you really want to. But the half step defines the shortest distance between two notes. It's either two adjacent white keys on the piano or a white key, and if there's a black key in between, that's up a half step or down a half step. This situation occurs after D, too. If you go on D and you go up a half step, well, of course, that's D sharp, right? Or the higher one lower, E flat, right? And again, that's the same sound. Between E and F, there's only a half step. So no sharp or flat is necessary. It's the same intervallic relationship between E and F and D and D sharp or D and E flat, however you want to look at it. Just remember that D sharp and E flat have exactly the same sound. If we go to F here, and if you go F and go up a half step, we get F sharp, right? Or G flat. And then we're just about done here between G and A. And again, you go to G sharp or A flat, right? And then what happens? You start all the way over again. Now, we missed a couple here. You can have an A sharp and you can have a B flat. And again, that's exactly the same sound. So if someone, so what's important about this? Well, you want to learn that what a half step is, because all of music is based upon these half steps. If someone says, okay, so before we move forward, I want to make sure you understand this concept of a half step. A half step occurs naturally on a C scale between E and F and between B and C. In between all the white keys, other than those two places, is a black key. That indicates that if this is C, to go up a half step, you have to go to the black key, which is C sharp, or the higher one, D, named flat. So this key is C sharp or D flat. It is a half step away from C. Just like E and F are a half step away, they naturally occur. That's a naturally occurring half step in the scale. It's between the third and fourth, which we'll get into. But you have to understand the concept of a half step and the musical number line, or the musical line, this chromatic scale, before you go any further. It's made up of 12 notes. Each of them are a half step away from each other. So we have C, then we have C sharp or D flat, then we have D, then we have D sharp or E flat, then we have E, then we have F. There's no E sharp. There is, you could call F E sharp, but it's only a half step away. E and F are a half step away. From F, we go to F sharp or G flat. From F sharp to G flat, we go to G. Then we go to G sharp or A flat. We go to A sharp or B flat to B, and B to C. Okay? Just for clarity's sake, you'll get into it further when you're spelling chords. B sharp, since it's only a half step away from C, B can be called B, and C, since they're a half step away, forgive me. C can be called B sharp. Sometimes when you're spelling chords, it's advantageous to call it B sharp. Same thing with E and F. F can be called E sharp in some situations. Okay, so that's a half step. It's important to understand what a half step is. Just one thing I didn't put in the original video is 2 half steps make a whole step. A whole step is simply 2 half steps. So between C and D, that's a whole step, 2 half steps. Go 1, 2. A whole step up from D is to E. 1, 2. Now here's you have to count a little bit different. You don't count a little bit differently, but notice that the first between E and F, since there's only a half step, you got to go up 1 more to get a whole step. So E, to get a whole step up from E, you go 1, 2. So a whole step up from E is F sharp. A whole step up from B is C sharp. Okay, so I have to come down here. If I'm here, a whole step up from B is C sharp. 1, 2. All the white keys, a whole step up, other than between E and F and B and C, are up to the next white key. If I want to go a whole step up from C sharp, I got to go 2 keys. 1, 2, D sharp. Okay, always count 2 when getting whole steps. A whole step up from E flat is 1, 2 is F. So whole steps and half steps. The shortest distance between 2 notes is generally always a half step, sometimes called a minor second, which get into. A whole step is 2 half steps. You just count up 2. On a guitar, a half step is 1 fret. A whole step is up 2 frets. From the open string to the first fret, that's a half step. From the open string to the second fret on the guitar is a whole step. 2 frets up from any note is a whole step. 1 fret up from any note is a half step. Works the same going down. 1 step down is a half step down, etc., etc. I think you get the idea. So it's important to make sure you understand that, because everything is going to be built upon that.